Marcus thought he had moved on with his life. New city, new family. A house that felt like a fresh start. That was the lie he had been telling himself for years. From the outside, his life looked settled. He had a stable job, a wife who kept the house warm, and 3 children who made him feel like he had built something real. Their life had routines, school mornings, packed lunches, evenings around the dinner table, the kind of mess that belongs to people who are safe. It looked respectable. It looked like the kind of life people around him had always wanted him to have. Marcus liked that. He liked the approval hidden inside casual comments. He liked being the kind of man no one had to question. But the truth was uglier than that. There had been a life before this one. A version of himself he had buried so deeply. Back in Ohio, before marriage, before children, before California, there had been Nora. He had loved her. She had a laugh that stripped the performance out of him. With Nora, he did not feel like he was playing a part. Then the world around them started pressing in. It came in little ways. A joke that wasn't really a joke. A family dinner where his mother asked what kind of future he thought he was building, then smiled like she had not asked anything. No one said, "Leave her because she's black." They didn't have to. It lived in every hesitation, in every strained silence. Marcus, weak in the way many men are weak, told himself he could carry it. He told Nora not to worry. Pressure does not always break a person in one dramatic moment. Sometimes it sands them down slowly. He became smaller, cowardlier. He started taking longer to answer her calls, then sometimes not answering at all. He withdrew in pieces. Nora saw it before he admitted it. She asked him once, standing outside her apartment in the cold, if he was leaving her. Instead of the truth, he gave her what cowards always give: confusion, half-answers, a lie shaped like uncertainty. Months later, he learned she had been pregnant. He should have found her. He should have driven across the country. He did none of that. He let shame become paralysis. Eventually, he married someone else, built the life people found easier to accept. They found a house in a quiet HOA neighborhood at a price that made no sense. Clean street, fresh paint, a neighborhood almost curated. The house was too quiet. Not peaceful. Quiet in a way that seemed deliberate. Voices seemed to disappear faster than they should. At the end of the hall hung a long decorative mirror. Marcus stopped. In the mirror, behind him, stood a woman. Pale face, dark hair. In her arms she held a small bundle wrapped tightly. Marcus turned, but the hallway was empty. Then, a whisper. Soft. So close it felt like breath against the back of his neck. Marcus. Marcus thought he had moved on. New city, new family, a house that felt like a fresh start. That was the lie he told himself. His life looked settled. A stable job, a wife, and 3 children. The kind of respectable life people admire without looking too closely. He liked the approval hidden in casual comments. He liked being the man no one questioned. He thought his harder years were behind him. But the truth was uglier. Before this life, back in Ohio, there had been Nora. He had loved her in a way that rearranged him. Then the world pressed in. Subtle jokes, long pauses, and the cold silence of his family. Ugliness that never fully stepped into the daylight. Pressure sands a person down. Marcus became smaller, cowardlier. He stopped fighting for her, letting silence do the dirty work of betrayal. The last time he saw her was in a cold parking lot. He gave her half-answers and lies shaped like uncertainty. He chose cowardice. Months later, he learned she had been pregnant. He did nothing. He let shame become paralysis, then let time turn his sin into a story. Years passed. When his company transferred him to California, the cheap rental house felt like a lucky gift. He signed the lease too quickly, but the house was too quiet. Voices disappeared. Footsteps died in the floors. It felt sealed off, as if sound itself had trouble moving. In the hallway mirror, Marcus saw her, still as a photograph. Pale, with dark hair and eyes full of pain. She held a bundle. Then came the whisper. Soft, worn down, and cold. He knew that voice. Something in the house had recognized him. The neighbors watched him with caution, not curiosity. An old woman told him he should have asked why the rent was so cheap. The haunting intensified. He saw her in the dark glass of the window. He heard a broken, breathless weeping that sounded ancient and newborn. His youngest child woke screaming. "There was a lady by the closet," she said. "She had a baby." Marcus lied and called it a nightmare. Marcus searched the records. He found an old article. A woman had died in this house during childbirth 20 years ago. Nora Whitfield. The house had not mistaken him. It knew he had delivered her into that isolation. He sat in the dark as the walls moved closer. Suddenly, the lights went out. A ragged, furious weeping filled the hallway. Marcus ran toward the children, his breath visible in the cold. Nora stood there, holding the child. Her face was clear. No monstrosity, just the weight of a betrayal that had never stopped hurting. She looked like a woman pain had preserved. A woman whose grief had outlived her body and kept refining itself into purpose. Her eyes were fixed on Marcus, but there was something terrible in the way she stood that told him her anger had grown beyond him. It had learned the house, learned the family, learned what he loved. Marcus moved instinctively in front of the children's rooms. One of his sons was crying inside one room. His youngest was screaming for her mother from another. The hallway seemed to pulse with invisible pressure. "Nora," Marcus said, and hearing the name in his own mouth felt like stepping onto thin ice. She did not react at first. Then she took one step forward. The crying in the blanket grew louder. A door behind Marcus slammed hard enough to shake the walls. His wife was shouting from the staircase below, unable to see clearly. Marcus tried again, this time barely able to force the words out. "Don't come closer." It was not a command. It was a plea. Nora took another step. The light fixtures all flashed at once in a violent white burst, then died again. The walls creaked with a deep internal groan. The air smelled suddenly wrong, metallic, damp, almost like a hospital corridor left too long without cleaning. And in that moment, Marcus understood something that made the fear worse than death. She did not want a performance of guilt. She did not want him frightened. She wanted him to feel consequence, to understand what abandonment becomes when it is given years to harden. She had died carrying his child, alone in a world that had already taught him that choosing her would cost too much. He had chosen ease, and ease had become a death sentence in slow motion. Now, she was standing in front of the family he built. Marcus lunged into the nearest room, scooped up his youngest child, screamed for the other two to move, and shoved everyone toward the stairs. The house fought them. Doors swung shut, then opened, then shut again. The crying followed from room to room, from everywhere at once. As Marcus forced his family down the stairs, he heard Nora behind them, not running, but moving with the slow certainty of something inescapable. The chandelier over the entryway burst. Glass rained around them. His wife screamed. The front door stuck. then flew open hard. Cold air hit them. They stumbled into the yard barefoot, dragging children hysterical toward the car. Marcus fumbled the keys twice. Then he looked back. Upstairs, in the dark window, Nora stood holding the child, looking down at them with a stillness more terrifying than rage. They ended up at a motel near the interstate. His wife wrapped the kids in blankets and demanded the truth with a strained voice. Marcus told her enough to break the shape of their marriage in one night. He told her about Nora, about Ohio, about the pregnancy. "You knew her?" she asked. Marcus nodded. "Your child?" she said. And Marcus could not answer fast enough, because no answer mattered now. Marcus stared at the black screen of the television, and for a second, in the reflection, Nora was standing there, gone when he blinked. They never went back to the house. Whatever legal and financial consequences followed felt meaningless compared to the knowledge that the house was no longer safe. But leaving the house did not end it. That was the real horror. For the first week, Marcus saw Nora only in reflections, rear-view mirrors, store windows, dark television screens, always behind him, always holding the child. Then came the sounds, a soft weeping in empty offices, infant crying where there were no children, his name whispered from the back seat. Sleep became impossible. He started losing time, realizing he did not remember whole stretches of freeway while driving home. His wife looked at him now and saw not only the husband she married, but the stranger beneath him. The marriage did not break all at once. Marcus began researching Nora obsessively. Old addresses, employment records, the paper trail of someone carrying too much alone. She had come west pregnant and abandoned. The world had narrowed around her until that house became the last place left. Marcus now saw the structure beneath it, the cowardice that had let him choose approval over protection, the systems that made isolation deadlier for Nora. He had once described himself as trapped between love and family. That was the lie. He chose the version of life that kept him comfortable. He began drinking at night just to reach unconsciousness. It didn't help. The dreams were worse. In them, Nora was always walking. In one dream, she stood at the foot of his bed and said, "You left us where people leave things they don't want to claim." His middle child once asked, very quietly, if the lady in the house had been mad because Dad had hurt her. The worst nights were the ones without visuals, the nights when all he got was sound. Weeping first, then the crying, then his name. Some places become haunted because a person was abandoned there so completely that the abandonment itself hardens into presence, into hunger, into will. Late at night, Marcus sits alone more often now. When the house is quiet, he listens, first for the weeping, then for the crying. He does not turn around anymore. He knows she would be there in the reflection, holding the child he never claimed. The real horror is not that something followed him home. The real horror is that he once believed he had the right to move on at all.